It's another month, another Unearthed Arcana. This time, it's all about the Draconic options. Basically, Dragonborn and Kobolds, and some of the cool stuff they might be able to get in the future. Let's get into it. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner. Welcome back to the RPG Daily. Today is another, casual video where we're taking a look at the new Unearthed Arcana material that came out about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks at this point. I was originally going to do this video last week, but then when I recorded, I realized I never actually recorded my screen, so it felt weird trying to make something work, so I'm doing it again. So this is not my first time looking at the Draconic options, but I might find something new that I didn't catch the first time, and I'm just going to go over what they have, and we're going to compare it to the original Dragonborn options that I have here on D&D Beyond. Up above, you can see those. So let's dive into it and see what they've come up with for the new Draconic options. First up, they're talking about the races. This is meant to be different variants on the Dragonborn and the Kobold. The Dragonborn races, we'll get into that, how they've divided them a little differently than they used to, which I think is a pretty valid, it just makes sense. The old way of doing things, as we will cover, this just makes a lot more sense. So the Unearthed Arcana material goes over creating a character and the different ways of doing it. They outline more of the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything method, where you don't have the specific set ability score increases that come from the racial traits. So in this one, you increase one of the scores by 2 and a different score by 1. Or you increase 3 different scores by 1 is another option they have. So that's, pretty straightforward. Languages, it's all the same thing. Your creature type would be humanoid or Dragonborn. But then they get into the actual meat and potatoes of the document here, which is the different types of Dragonborn. So forgive me if a little bit gets cut off in the recording. I'm trying to figure things out. But you start off with the Chromatic Dragonborn. Chromatic Dragonborn, we know, are the colors, so black, blue, green, red, white. Those 6 are the options you have for Chromatic. Humanoid, walking speed of 30 feet, standard stuff. You get to choose one of the colors, the Chromatic ancestries, to become your Dragonborn ancestry, and you get the appropriate damage type, being acid, lightning, poison, fire, and cold, as you can see on the list here. The first trait you get, though, is your breath weapon. Breath weapons were pretty cool in the original. I kind of like them. I've seen them used a little bit, but they have their limitations. I'm going to pull up also on D&D Beyond here the different lists. So you can see on D&D Beyond, they include the same types of damage for the different dragon colors. And then we get to the breath weapon, which I have here. So the breath weapon, as an attack action, or when you take the attack action, one of your attacks can be with exhaling your magical energy. For Chromatic Dragonborn, that is a 30-foot line that is 5 feet wide. That requires a dexterity saving throw. The dex saving throw is 8 plus Constitution plus your proficiency bonus, or the creature takes 2d8 damage of the proper type. The difference here is the breath weapons in the original had different shapes depending on the different colors of dragon, but also the damage is increased quite a bit. You go from 2d6 damage of the type versus 2d8 damage of the associated type. You get full damage on a failed save, half damage on a successful save, and as you level up, of course, it increases to, at 5th level, it goes up to a 3d8, 11th to a 4d8, and 17th level to a 5d8 damage. Originally, it would increase at 6, 11, and 16, so they've adjusted that a little bit. A big change on the breath weapon, which I think makes it a lot more viable and more fun and usable, is the amount of times. You can use this trait a number of times, equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all your uses after a long rest. So right off the bat, you get 2 uses per long rest. As you level up, you're going to gain more. I think that's pretty good compared to the originals. The original being, after you use your breath weapon, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. I mean, I guess there's the trade-off. Original breath weapon recharged with a short or a long rest. The new one only recharges with a long rest, at least for Chromatic Dragonborn. We'll get to that. In carrying on, Draconic Resistance, you have resistance to the damage associated with your Chromatic Dragon ancestry. And then they did something interesting here, which I hadn't... I guess I should have looked this up. I didn't look this up. At level 3, get a new racial feature, which is the Chromatic Warding, which as an action, you can channel your energies and protect yourself for 10 minutes. You become immune to the damage type associated to your ancestry, and you can use that once per long rest. I hadn't really seen other races do that, where at a 3rd level you gain something new. I saw people do that in homebrews, but I hadn't seen it in official. But I have not read through every single racial characteristic of every single race, so I could be very mistaken on how those are. But moving on to Metallic Dragonborns. Metallic Dragonborn are, of course, brass, bronze, copper, gold, and silver. You only have 5 different types of those, and those deal fire, lightning, acid, fire, and cold damage. Again, your humanoid, 30-foot walking speed, no change there. The big change is in the breath weapon. The Metallic Dragonborn now deal the 15-foot cone weapon, where anyone in that needs to make the dexterity saving throw. The creatures again take 2d8 damage of the right type, and that damage increases at 5th, 11th, and 17th level, and you can use it same. So the big difference, instead of having it based on originally how they had it, was the different colors, where black, blue, brass, bronze, and copper were all a line, and then gold, green, red, silver, and white were the cone. Now they've just divided it even more. They said, okay, chromatic, you get the line, metallic, you can have the cone. And you can use them the same number of time as your proficiency bonus and regain them all when you finish a long rest. So, good stuff. At 3rd level, you gain a 2nd breath weapon from the Metallic Dragonborn features. This one is you can exhale the magical gas in a 15-foot cone as one of your actions. When you do that, each creature in that is going to have to make a saving throw or take one of the effects. They have 2 possible effects of this new magical metallic dragon breath weapon. The first one is any creature in the area has to succeed on a strength saving throw, or they're pushed away or knocked prone. They're pushed up to 20 feet away from you, and they're knocked prone. That's a big push. The second option is the character must succeed on a con save throw or be incapacitated until the start of your next turn. So those are 2 different options. The strength saving throws might be more effective on characters such as the wizard, and to have a lower strength, or the con might be useful on other types of creatures. I know a lot of players put a lot of points into Constitution because it is kind of a universally useful ability score, so it might not be as useful, but it might be fun. Then again, once you do that, you cannot use it again until you rest. So it's interesting. I like those. But here's where we get really fun, and I actually am very excited about this new option, and I'm really hoping they get it out in these books soon, is the Gem Dragonborn. The Gem Dragonborn come from the Gem Dragons, which we've seen kind of popping up. The Sapphire Dragon was a big one in, I believe it was Dragons of Icespire Peak. So the Gem Dragonborn come into play now. They deal a different type of damage completely. You still have your humanoid, you have your base walking speed, the damage types for the dragons. So the dragons you have amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, and topaz. And the damage type of those is force, radiant, psychic, thunder, and necrotic. So now we're leaving the elemental type stuff behind, and we're getting into the more arcane, I guess. You know, force, radiant, psychic. These are a different type of damage. Thunder is there. That's more of an elemental type. But it's pretty interesting. I like that idea that now we have a 3rd type of Dragonborn. So it's, gives us a little something extra. A little something. So the breath weapon for the Gem Dragonborns are a 15-foot cone. The same as the others, a dexterity saving throw. Take 2d8 damage of the damage type. That increases at 5th, 11th, and 17th level. So same exact thing as the Metallic Dragonborn, really just a different type of damage. You have resistance to damage type associated with your gem, which could be kind of neat. I mean, all those damages are less, I see them as less used, but I'm sure there's plenty of people who use all of these Gem Dragonborn, but damage types quite a bit. So the big thing is you have the Psionic Mind, which means you can telepathically speak to a creature within 30 feet of you, and you don't need to share a language with that creature. but they must be able to understand at least one language. So this is like, you can use your mind to talk to people, and that's just an innate racial ability from these Gem Dragonborn. I like it. And then at 3rd level, the Gem Dragonborn get the chance to fly. Use your bonus action to summon a gems that kind of turn into wings and last for a minute, and you gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and you can hover. So personally, I think that and the Psionic Mind, that's kind of, in my mind, those are more interesting, unique traits of the Dragonborn. And so I'm looking forward to the gems. I would open this up for my players as is. Kobolds, we know, are kind of little Dragonborn, right? They're smaller creatures. They serve dragons, or, you know, they're an interesting type of creature. They might not be the most sturdy of creatures, but I think with these new traits, they've made them pretty interesting and viable. I mean, I've played with players who played kobolds, and they're great. But I think the changes make it a little more interesting. They got rid of a couple of the features of the kobold and added in some new ones that I kind of like. So again, you have the humanoid. Your size is small on this one, but you still have your 30-foot walking speed. You have dark vision. You can see in the darkness. Pretty straightforward stuff. Then you get to the Draconic Legacy, which is a new feature of the kobolds. The idea behind the Draconic Legacy is the connection to the dragons manifests in the kobolds physically. So you get one of these 3 options that you can add on to your character. First up is advantage on saving throws to avoid being frightened or to end the frightened condition. All right. You know, 1 cantrip from the sorcerer spell list using intelligence, wisdom, or charisma as your spellcasting ability. And last, you can make an unarmed strike with your tail, dealing 1d6 plus strength bludgeoning damage instead of a normal unarmed strike. I think this kind of takes place of the grovel, cower, and beg feature that used to be in there. Like, the grovel, cower, and beg, it's fun, but it always felt so strange that, like, to distract your enemies and gain advantage, or give advantage to your allies, you had to be, like, this bait. And, I don't know, I never got into that. I never was behind it completely. But, hey, it works. Old Kobold also used to have pack tactics, which was pretty good, where pack tactics turns up in wolves and things quite a bit, where if you have an ally within 5 feet of a target, you gain advantage on your attack roll against that target. Now, though, they have Draconic Roar, which is different. It says the Kobold, as a bonus action, you let out a Draconic Roar at your enemies within 10 feet of you. Until your next turn, all your allies have advantage on attack rolls against any of those enemies. Roar. There's no saving throw attached. There's just advantage until the end of your next turn. I think that one is a pretty good bonus, a pretty good feature of the kobolds. Different than pack tactics. It's different than the grovel, cower, and beg. They removed sunlight sensitivity from kobolds, so you don't have to worry too much about having disadvantage on things. So I think this actually makes kobolds a little more viable, a little more... I think it brings a little more punch to kobolds, I think. Let's talk about some feats. This Unearthed Arcana brings 3 new feats in. They are the gifts of the different dragons. You have the gift of the Chromatic Dragon, gift of the Metallic Dragon, and gift of the Gem Dragon, which are different. So let's look at the gift of the Chromatic Dragon. First off, as a bonus action, you can infuse a martial weapon or simple weapon with a damage type, acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison, and for the next minute, they deal an extra 1d4 of that damage type. You do that once per long rest, and on top of that, whenever you take acid, fire, cold, lightning, or poison damage, you can use your reaction to get resistance on that type instance of damage. Not just that type of damage, but that momentary instant. You can use this reaction number times equal to proficiency bonus, and you get them all back after a long rest. So your 2 options is deal more damage with a martial or simple weapon, or gain momentary resistance to the type of damage when you get hit. Take that damage. The gift of the Metallic Dragon, let's look at that one. This is a little more healing and defensive maneuvers here. The first thing is you'll learn the Cure Wounds spell, and you'll be able to cast that without a spell slot once per long rest. So that's pretty good. Your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma as your abilities score when you cast it. So it depends on what class you play, because these are feats. They can go to any class you want. In addition to that, you can create protective wings to shield yourself or others from an attack. If a creature within 5 feet of you gets hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to manifest the wings and give 1d4 of bonus AC to the target creature. This is a reaction, so you can use it the number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. But the last feat, of course, is Gift of the Gem Dragon, which is more in line with the standard feat. You increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1, up to a maximum of 20. We see that in a lot of feats, those kind of things. The other thing is when you take damage from a creature within 10 feet of you, you can use telekinetic energy to force that creature to take a strength saving throw. If they fail the strength saving throw, they take 2d8 force damage and are pushed 10 feet away. Use that same number of times as your proficiency bonus, and you get them all back when you finish the long rest. So this lets you increase your intelligence and then have kind of a telekinetic rebuke to an attacker. So interesting feats. So looking at these, I think if you want to play, aggressive attacker, Chromatic Dragonborn, the Gift of the Chromatic Dragon might be more your style. If you are a more defensive, tanky type character, the Alec Dragonborn might be it. Or if you just want something, that uses telekinesis and psionics, Gift of the Gem Dragon might be right up your wheelhouse. Those are the new feats in the Unearthed Arcana. Let's look at the spells. So this comes with 8 new spells, all related to dragons, and some of them named after dragons that created these spells. And we're just going to go right through the list. Draconic Transformation is a 7th level spell cast as a bonus action that needs verbal, somatic, and material component, and a statuette of a dragon. 500 gold. It does not use the dragon, so once you have that, you're pretty good. And it lasts for up to a minute, and it's concentration. You transform yourself, taking on some draconic features, and you gain the following benefits. You gain blind sight with 30 feet, straightforward. You gain some incorporeal wings from your back, and you gain a flying speed of 40 feet. Then also when you cast the spell, and as a bonus action for the other turns while this spell is active, you can exhale a breath of energy in a 30-foot cone, and each creature in that area needs to make a dexterity saving throw or take 3d8 force damage on a failed save or half as much as on a successful one. That, right, I mean, it's 7th level, so it's a pretty high-level spell, but you have the potential of using that breath weapon 10 times if you're in combat, in each round on that spell, and after you cast it, dealing quite a bit of potential damage in there, 30d8 force damage 10 times. I think that's a pretty good potential, but again, it's 7th level, so that's not something you get at like 1st level and you can do and blow everyone away. Next, you get Fisman's Platinum Shield. This one is an action, the range of 60 feet. You use verbal, somatic, and material components, that being a platinum-plated dragon scale worth 500 gold, not consume, and it is a concentration for up to a minute. You create this silvery light field that sheds some dim light. It's around you or a creature of your choice. So that is first created. Then, as a bonus action on other turns, you can actually move that field to a different creature, but they gain the benefits of having half cover, which means a +2 to your armor class and dexterity saving throws. The creature gains resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and poison damage, so all 5. And if that target creature has to make a dexterity saving throw at any time versus half damage, the creature instead can take no damage if they succeed their saving throw, and only half damage if they fail. So it's a pretty good defensive, protective spell. Similar to monks or rogues who get evasion, this kind of ties into that. Flame Stride is a 3rd level transmutation spell that can be cast as a bonus action on yourself. It only uses verbal and somatic components, and it can last for up to a minute with concentration. So first off, your feet light on fire and you gain an additional 20-foot walking speed that does not provoke opportunity attacks. I think that's kind of neat. The other part of that is when you move within 5 feet of a creature or object that isn't being carried, that takes 1d6 fire damage from your trail of heat. And it can only take that damage once per turn. So basically, you can use this, move through a crowd of people, and because you move within 5 feet of these people, they are going to take this 1d6 fire damage. I don't see any save listed. It does mention that at higher levels, your speed is increased by 5 feet for each level, and the damage is increased by another d6 for each level above 3rd. So you could potentially go pretty crazy with this one at higher levels as well. And it lasts for a minute, so you can move quite a bit. It gives you a lot of speed bonus here. Next up, we have Icing Death's Frost, which is a 2nd level invocation spell that is cast as an action from yourself in a 15-foot cone. It uses somatic and material components, so it can be cast without saying anything. And it lasts instantly. It's a icy cold energy, shoots out from you in your 30-foot. So here's a little confusion, and I caught this last time. The range says it is itself a 15-foot cone. The written text say it is a 30-foot cone. Since it's a 2nd level evocation, I feel like it's supposed to be 15, but I don't know. Your DM may have a different judgment on that one. So you make this cone in your 15-foot or 30-foot cone. The creature makes a Constitution saving throw. If they fail, they take 3d8 cold damage and is covered in ice for the next minute, or until it breaks the ice off itself or somebody else. When they are covered in ice, their speed is 0, and that's all. So they can't move until they break off the ice. If they save on the saving throw or succeed at the saving throw, then they only take half damage and no other effect. At higher levels, this damage increases. That's a fun kind of damaging and crowd control. It just brings that picture of, you use your breath weapon on things and they freeze up. I like that idea. The other 2nd level spell is Nathar's Mischief. It is a 2nd level illusion spell. It takes an action to cast, 60-foot range, and it has somatic and material components, which is a crust of an apple pie. And the spell lasts for up to a minute. It says you fill a 20-foot cube within your range with Fey and Draconic magic, creating a surge on this surge table that they have. The surge table has 4 different options only. You can make it smell like apple pie to try to charm creatures. You can make flowers to try and blind creatures. You can make them giggle and laugh versus a wisdom saving throw, or you can put them into molasses and create difficult terrain. So it's a very kind of strange, eclectic fey magic that you put in that area. Good for crowd control, good for potential person control as well. Next, we have Rowlethim's Psychic Lance. It's a 4th level enchantment spell that is cast as an action with a range of 120 feet and only verbal components. This is a lance of psychic energy from your forehead at a creature within range, or if you know the name of the creature. If the creature is actually within range of this, then it doesn't get any benefit from having cover or invisibility. So it might be good to ask the enemies that you're potentially trying to kill what their name is before you get into a fight. If that's the case, then this Psychic Lance hones in on it and hits it. If it's not in range of that, which sometimes they might be running away, something like that. If they are running away, then the spell slot is not expended. When the target is hit by this lance, it has to make an intelligence saving throw or take d6 psychic damage and be incapacitated until the start of your next turn. So it's a massive amount of damage as a 4th level spell versus a saving throw. You have to make that saving throw. The downside is if they make the saving throw, there is no effect. There's no half damage for a successful save. And the spell's damage increases the higher level you get, or the higher spell level you cast it at. Last, we have Summon Draconic Spirit, which is a 5th level conjuration spell that is an action within 60 feet using verbal, somatic, and material components. Object, art from a dragon's hoard that it does not consume. For the next hour, you can summon a Draconic Spirit to aid you. It appears nearby or in that range in an unoccupied space. When you cast it, you get to choose what family you want the Draconic Spirit to be: metallic, chromatic, or gem. And each one of those have a little different abilities according to the stat block of the dragon spirit. This draconic spirit will disappear when it reaches 0 hit points, or if the spell ends after an hour, or if you just release the spell. Since it's concentration, you're going to want to maintain that concentration on it. Your allies are its allies, and it takes its turn on your initiative order after you do, just immediately after. And it will obey any verbal commands you make. You don't issue any verbal commands, it just takes the dodge action. At higher levels, you'll see as we kind of brush through this stat block, each higher level that you cast this spell at increases some stat of the Draconic Spirit. Armor class, now we're looking into it, is the first one of that. It starts out with a base of 14 plus the level of the spell. This is a 5th level spell, so immediately this Draconic Spirit is going to have a 19 armor class at the lowest possible casting level. Cast it higher, more armor class. Hit points, same deal. 50 plus 10 for each level above 5th. So 50 is the baseline. Go up a level, you gain another 10 hit points of damage, hit points. These spirits have a speed of 30 foot, a flying speed of 80 feet, and a swim speed of 30 foot. I moved that up a little bit so you can see the scores here. 19, 14, 17, 10, 14, and 14. So pretty decent. So this next part is depending on what kind of dragon you chose. If it is chromatic or metallic, you gain resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and poison damage. If you chose a gem type of dragon spirit, you gain resistance to force, necrotic, psychic, radiant, and thunder damage. That's what these draconic spirits have. It is immune to being charmed, frightened, or poisoned. Good. It has a blind sense of 30 feet, dark vision of 60 feet, passive perception of 12. It speaks and understands Common and a Draconic, or whatever languages you speak. Its proficiency bonus is equal to your proficiency bonus. And it also gets to share one of its damage resistances with you. So if you happen to be, for example, a white Dragonborn, you naturally have cold resistance. But let's say you're fighting a creature who's dealing some radiant damage. You can summon a gem Draconic Spirit and share its resistance to radiant damage with you. I like that. The Draconic Spirit gets a multi-attack where it can use its breath weapon and make a bite and claw attacks equal to half the spell's level rounded down. So bite and claw is a melee weapon attack. Breath weapon is a 30-foot cone. Similar to regular breath weapon attack. We won't get into much with that one. But I think it's interesting here, though, that you get your breath weapon and you get the bite and claw attack. Bite and claw attack being half the spell level. At 5th level, you're getting 2 bite and claw attacks per turn. If you go up just one more level, cast it as a 6th level spell, you'll be getting 3 bite and claw attacks when this creature acts. So, and then when you get up to 8th, you're making 4. But then you have the breath weapon that this thing can use, which will deal 2d6 damage versus a dexterity saving throw. That's like me looking at this thing and trying to figure it out and understand it. I think these become pretty viable. I think Dragonborn already were interesting, but I know there was some talk about them not being that good or not being that usable. Personally, I don't really subscribe to that mindset about what is good when it comes to these. But this right here, having multiple uses of the breath weapon is neat. I like the changes for the Kobold. I think those are going to be fun options to have. I think the bonus at different levels for the Dragonborn racial traits makes it interesting and really makes you want to actually pick. Want a Dragonborn that's going to gain a fly speed later on, or would you rather have one that can defend things or gain immunity to a damage? Interesting choices that makes it harder for me to pick what color Dragonborn I want to be. So personally, I'm looking forward to this. I hope that part of it, if I'm being honest, looking at these, at level 3 you gain X ability. I would like to see those be applied to the other races as well, like throughout all over them, because it seems kind of like a favoritism, maybe. Maybe they're trying to make up for the 4 Dragonborns they had before. I don't know. I feel like a lot of businesses, similar just in all things, they have their favorites and always get their attention. It's like in Warhammer, Space Marines are going to always be the heroes. They're always going to have the most stuff. But sometimes a company can go the other way and unbalance things the other way because they're like, oh, we need to make this other thing and make it fit. So I don't know if that's what they're doing or if that's just how it played out. But we'll see. It's Unearthed Arcana, so it is in playtesting. If you use this in one of your games, make sure you go fill out the survey at the end of the testing period to give your feedback to them. So then in another future book, they can publish it. And then we can have these as official rulings instead of just Unearthed Arcana. That's the rundown of these new Draconic options. I hope you liked the video. If you want more videos like these, hit the like button. Let me know if you like this kind of early breakdown of the Unearthed Arcana. I could try to do them even sooner. This time I messed up and wasn't able to get that, but I could try to do them like the day that they drop. I could do kind of rundown videos. If you like that, let me know. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I know there's quite a few of you who haven't already. And also, if you need some miniatures, perhaps some colored dragon miniatures or Dragonborns, check out my Etsy shop. The link is in the description. It's called Adventures in 3D, and I sell you some minis that I 3D print. And yes, it's actually me doing the 3D printing. So any of the proceeds from that goes to just keeping things going here at home, and I really appreciate any help you guys give on that. All that being said, I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.